Hey guys, it's Holly. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be on single parenting, and this particular video is going to be simply just advice that I have to offer other single parents or parents that may potentially become single parents soon, whether you are pregnant, expecting a child, or whether you are considering a separation or a divorce. Kind of a heavy topic, but that's what I'm here to do. That's what I'm here for today, is just to offer up the advice from my own personal experience. So this will not be a list of every single thing, because if I listed out every single thing, it would take hours, if not days, after everything I've been through over the last 7 years now. So again, I have two kids, 7 and 3. If you haven't seen any of my previous videos, I have done a few other videos in my single parent series, and I'm doing this one, and then I will probably do another one after this as well. I haven't decided exactly what it will be about. So without further ado, there are some different categories. I'm not going to get into a ton of detail with every single thing because I want to make this fairly brief, because a few of my other videos have been a little bit long-winded. But from my personal experience, now I will also say before I start that I cannot necessarily speak for older children, for teenagers and older children, preteens, etc., or adult children, because my children are young. So all of this is coming from a standpoint of a mother of young children. So the first thing I want to talk about, I might be taking a drink here and there. I've got some allergies. So when it comes to, in terms of financially, the most important advice that I can highly recommend is just having a budget and sticking to it. Revising your budget at least twice a year, if not more than that. It depends on your job. I personally am self-employed, and I revise my budget and go back over it about 3 times a year on average. And that really helps me to know exactly where I'm at. I have my budget down to a T. I handwrite everything in a journal, but I know exactly how much I'm spending each week on Starbucks, on eating out, how much money I'm spending on gas, all my other bills. I know exactly how much I'm spending by the week and by the month, and how much I am allowing myself to spend by the week and by the month on certain things. So, and I won't go into detail on every single little thing, but I will say that not eating out is a huge money saver. And I know as a single parent this can be a little bit difficult, because you want to eat out all the time because you are so busy and because you are tired. However, I would highly recommend trying to just pick healthy foods that you can keep at home, that you can heat up, or that you can heat in the oven very quickly. And you can get a lot of these different things. You can do like smoothies, you can do so many different things. But my point is that the less you eat out, the better, because that is one of the number one things that makes people go broke. So me, I allow myself and the family, I allow us to eat out once a week, and that's it. I also allow us to get Starbucks once a week, and that's it. And that's just how we do it. So also really watching your entertainment spending is a big thing as well. So I used to go to the movies all the time. I don't anymore, but I will allow myself to kind of rent a movie online or whatever, or buy a movie online once a week. But I usually don't have time, so I usually don't end up even using that money for that. So I'll use it for something else or whatever, if that makes sense. So another thing is budgeting. Aside from budgeting, is saving what you can, even if it's like $2 here and there. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Saving what you can. Whether this is in the form of a coin jar, which is, believe it or not, is actually a good option. Or whether you are actually putting it into a savings account. So I actually save, I've been saving for many years, but I save very little. I don't save a lot right now, just because kind of in uncertain times, and I save as much as I can, but it's definitely important to save what you can. Like I say, even if it's a coin jar, even if it is whatever, $1 here, 50 cents here, whatever you can do. because in the end that really does add up. I also highly recommend investing. That's something that's going to be controversial for people. Some people don't want to invest. Some people feel like they don't have the money. But even if you just have a few extra dollars, you can still invest. And I have been investing for a few years now, and I'm so thankful that I have been. So even same thing with your saving. Even if you just have a few dollars a week, you can still invest that $1, $2, $5, $6. You can totally invest that by the week or by the month, whatever you have, because that adds up too. And that's also something you can utilize in the future when you might find yourself in need of extra money, and you can sell some of your investments, your stocks, ETFs, etc. So that's another thing. I do that as well. I do have some stocks and cryptocurrencies that I do invest in. So financially, those would be really my main recommendations. Recognize what you're spending, utilize your tools online. Most banking websites they have free tools that you can utilize, your debt to income ratio, all these different things, your spending report, etc. So definitely utilize those free tools, and try your hardest not to get into too much debt. I definitely made this mistake earlier on when my oldest son was a couple of years old. I had to, actually I think it was about 3, I can't recall, 2 or 3, but I ended up having to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy because I literally ended up with I can't remember, it was 10 different credit cards, 2 or 3 different installment loans, and the bottom line is I just wasn't making enough money to pay for everything that I was spending. And so ultimately I really had to check in with myself and go over a lot of things and just, be realistic. And so after I filed that bankruptcy, so far to this day, that was, it's been going on 5 years now, and so far I have not gotten into debt at all up to this point, which I'm extremely thankful for. So obviously if you're in an emergency, you're going to reach for that credit card. If you don't have the money, you're going to reach for your credit cards. And that was kind of the situation with me, is that I didn't save properly before I had my first child. When I knew he was coming, I didn't save as much money as I needed to, and so I took a few weeks off for maternity leave by choice, and then by the time I went back to work, I'd been living off credit cards, and so it kind of turned into a domino effect. And then next thing I know, I've got $20,000 worth of debt that I couldn't pay off. So that was kind of my situation with that. So I recommend trying your hardest to not go into so much debt, but just know that if it does happen, even if you do eventually have to file a bankruptcy, it's not the end of the world, and it's just not the end of the world, and that's all I have to say about that. So financially, that's about all I have to say. Now, in terms of other things, know that your situation is temporary, and know that you do actually have the power to change being a single parent should you wish. There are a lot of men and women out there alike that would be happy to be a part of your family, and I've seen this firsthand. I've dated several different guys throughout my single parenting journey, actually quite a few, and I do believe there was only ever one that I had any kind of issue with, and I do believe I spoke about him in one of my previous videos in this series. But other than that, he was the only one, and I was done with him so quick. I couldn't even. And you should be. If someone is not accepting of you in your situation and is not willing to work with you in your situation, just be done. Don't waste your time. That's another big piece of advice. Don't waste your time, whether it be friendships, whether it be romantic endeavors, etc. Don't waste your time. So aside from that, realizing the situation is temporary period. Your kids will get older. They will grow out of phases that are stressful. All of these things important to remember as well. So next point I want to talk about is treating yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever you have to do. Now, a treat for yourself can be in the form of so many different things. It doesn't have to be something materialistic necessarily. It can be treating yourself to watching a movie, once your kids are in bed or while they're napping. It can be, you know, meditating can be a treat for yourself, taking a hot bath. So many different things, you know, that we could go into there. So, but treating yourself also in the form of things like, you know, maybe giving yourself a spa day. This is, you know, if you have the money and the time to do so. Going and getting yourself a haircut. Like, it can be simple things. Every now and then I will have a spa day. Not so much recently, but I try to do that when I can. And one thing that I really like to do is every week when I go to the store and get my groceries, which I usually order delivery or curbside pickup, but I will always get at least a couple of bath bombs and at least a couple of like individually packed like face masks that are really cool looking, that I can use at night before I take my shower or after I take my shower or whatever. Bath, shower, I usually take a bath. And I'll get little things like hair masks and just these little like treats that you can utilize, you know, whenever you're doing like your relaxing routine or whatever. And they don't take hardly any time to incorporate into my routine. So for me, that's definitely a treat, but I do that stuff every week. I'll usually do 2 face masks, 2 body scrubs, at least 1 hair mask, sometimes 2, and 2 to 3 bath bombs, depending on, you know, if they're more expensive ones or if they're like cheaper ones that come like in a bigger pack. So, because obviously I don't want to go crazy with it. So I do a lot of that. So treating yourself is an important thing, and like I say, that can be so many different things, and that's going to look different for everybody. So apart from that, reaching out for help whenever you feel like you need it, and this can be easier said than done in some cases, in a lot of cases. Now, physically, if you're reaching out for support physically, it might not necessarily always be there. It depends on your own situation. It depends on your support system, how much family support you have from family and friends, etc. So with me, I know I've had so many countless times when I've reached out for physical help in a situation and not been able to get it. Fortunately, at this point in my life where I'm at right now, I can pretty much always find physical help to an extent, but there's still occasional times when I may not be able to find that. Recently, a few weeks back, I ended up having to take my oldest son to the emergency room because he had an asthma flare-up and he was having issues with that. And so, unfortunately, the problem kind of arose in the middle of the night, and so I had to get up, get us ready, get us out the door, headed to the hospital at about 3 o'clock in the morning. It was about 2:45, and of course at this point nobody's awake, nobody is, you know, answering the phone. Like, I'm trying to call my mom just so I can simply talk to her because I want someone to talk to because I'm so freaked out, and no answer. Same thing, try to call my dad, no answer. And so that can be a really difficult thing. Of course, there was no one to bring any food or coffee. I was terribly exhausted because I hadn't slept well the night before. We ended up being at the hospital the whole entire night. We did not get home the next morning until about 10. So that is just, you know, an example of a situation in which I was not able to get any kind of physical help with that. And that's going to look different for everyone, because physical help could mean that you need a babysitter for a little bit. It could mean maybe you need someone to take your kids for the night, or maybe you need somebody to bring you something to eat. Maybe you need something that you can't go out and get because, you know, your child runs off in the store every time you try to go inside the store. So I kind of have that issue with my 3-year-old, and that is why I mostly order my groceries curbside or delivery. So that's another tip that I will offer while I'm thinking about it, is ordering your groceries curbside or delivery. Curbside is usually cheaper because you usually don't have to pay an extra fee for picking up curbside, and delivery does cost a little bit more because even if you have like a membership with your store and they give you free delivery, you might you still have to tip your driver, obviously. So I order from Walmart once or twice a month. I'll order from Walmart. I have the Walmart Plus membership or whatever, and so I don't get a delivery fee, but I do still have to tip my driver, and you do want to tip them decently and not be rude about it. So, and then I also order from HEB about half the time. So, and then I physically will go to the store once every 4 to 6 weeks typically. So, just reaching out for help in terms of spiritually, this could be through your church, somebody that a mentor, somebody that you can contact, a friend, a family member, reaching out in terms of if you start to feel mentally overwhelmed, emotionally dragging, overwhelmed in that sense. And I definitely deal with that a lot. I'm not gonna lie, I deal with that a lot. So just reach out, whatever that may be. Maybe it's on social media, maybe it's through groups, maybe it's even something like seeing a therapist or getting counseling. I personally, I'm not really big on counseling and therapy for myself. Now, for other people, it can be very beneficial, but in past years, I have seen a few different therapists and, had counseling through a few different avenues, and I just didn't experience a whole lot of benefit from it for me. But if you feel like that is something that could help you, I definitely recommend maybe seeking that out. But there are so many different things that you can seek out and so many different ways that you can reach out for help. Depending on your religion, your spirituality, reach out to God, reach out to, whatever your spiritual beliefs are. And I personally, my faith is very strong. I'm a non-denominational Christian, but my faith is very strong because of my being a single parent and because of all the times that I did not have a source of support. And knowing what I know now, looking back, I wish I had known all the things and about all the resources now. Of course, now we also have more resources than we did 6 or 7 years ago. So with that being said, on to the next thing. So probably the last thing that I really want to address in depth is not comparing yourself to other people. And this is absolutely going to be my number one piece of advice. And this is my number one piece of advice for life in general, for everybody. But not comparing yourself to other people is hugely going to affect your life in a good way if you don't compare yourself. So by nature, we tend to compare ourselves to other people, but when you start comparing yourself to other people, whether they're a single parent or not, that's going to start getting difficult and really wearing on your mental health, which you do not need as a single parent. You need to have as clear of a head as possible. And I was guilty of this so much in my early 20s and even mid 20s, comparing myself to other single parents or other parents in general that weren't even single parents. And I would think, so-and-so has it together, and look at this, and they have all this support, and so-and-so gets to do whatever they want and go wherever they want, and they never even take their kid with them. But I think I talked about this too. I had a friend, in another video I had mentioned it, but I had a friend that was, she had kind of like a family in which she was very close to, and they watched her child like pretty much 24/7, and she just kind of, I don't know, like, I don't want to say like abandoned her child, but she just wasn't there, and just kind of left and checked out and just would only see the child when she wanted to. And this went on for at least a couple of years, maybe 3 years, I can't recall. But it was kind of hard, looking at that situation and then looking at my situation, which was extremely, very rough, and I've talked about it in other videos, so I'm not going to go into it a whole lot in this video. But I definitely have struggled with a lack of family support over the years in terms of not having someone to be there, someone to help, and every little bit of help that I have gotten from my family, in terms of them babysitting or anything like that, I have had to pay for that. My mom has watched my child one time for free in all the 7 years that I've had him. So if that kind of gives you an idea. And I know there are other people out there like me. Most people, from my experience, that are single parents do have a better family support system in general than what I had early on. However, there are still some people out there in a similar boat and even worse off. So if you're in that boat and you don't have a lot of family support, just know that as long as you just do the best that you can, the rest will be taken care of. So that was always a hard thing for me, is there were so many days and nights that I just didn't know how I was ever going to make it. And for me, it was my faith. It was God that brought me through all of that. And so if you are spiritual, definitely just know that we're capable of so much more than what we think we are. And that goes for all different levels: physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. We're capable of so much more than we will ever know. I'm still amazed at all the things I've been through, and especially the things that I've been through without anybody by my side. So anyways, so just don't compare yourself, because that will go bad very quickly. You'll start to resent other people. You'll have trouble with connections, trouble making friends, and it's just not good for you. I find that one thing that kind of bothers me is these days I feel like parents in general tend to kind of have this unspoken competition of, whose kid is better, whose kid is in more different extracurricular activities, whose kid is smarter, whose kid is going to bed earlier. Oh my gosh, that one is just, I can't stand it. There's always like this competition, like you see it on social media a lot, but like people will be like, oh, my kid goes to bed at 6:30, and someone's like, oh, well, my kid doesn't go to bed till 8, or my kid goes to bed at 7. And it's like, why compare yourself? Everyone's in a different life situation, completely different. And we're not one size fits all. We were never created to be that way. And so living here in the Matrix, in this rat race, is a very uncomfortable thing. And fortunately for me, I broke away from the rat race very early on. I broke away from the Matrix very early on. I would say I was about 17 when I really started breaking away. So I really never feel like I actually lived in the rat race necessarily, except obviously when I was younger and when I was in school, because public school, even private school, depending on different factors, is part of the rat race, in my opinion. So 9-to-5 jobs, things of that nature, just living that lifestyle of go, 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 get this kid here, get this kid here, get off work, go to this, go to that, do this, do that, come home, try to fix something for dinner, get everybody to bed, hurry, 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 wake up early, do this, that's the rat race, in case you were wondering. I call it the rat race, a lot of us do. But living like that, some people can live like that. Some people are like, they're okay with it. I am not. I never was, and I never will be. So I don't partake in the rat race, and I will say that that's one thing that keeps my stress levels down and keeps me from literally losing my mind. So I have homeschooled my son, my oldest son. He is over halfway through first grade now, and we have homeschooled all of but 7 weeks when he was in pre-K, and that was before COVID. COVID is the main reason that we do homeschool, so a lot of people have conflicting opinions on that. This is just what I do, but I also find it beneficial because he also has ADHD, and it's easier for me to teach him myself. And like I've talked about in some of my other homeschool videos, because I have like a whole playlist of homeschool videos if you want to check them out. But homeschooling helps because if you really think about it, like if your child is in public school or private school, they're bringing home homework. They're bringing home all these papers that you have to sign, all these things you have to go through. You've got to worry about school supplies. You've got to worry about getting all these phone calls and emails from the school. all these requests to volunteer, field trip, buy this t-shirt, fill this form out, do this. And to be completely honest with you, when my son was in pre-K, which was a half day pre-K, I honestly feel like we really don't spend that much more time now than we did back then, just dealing with all of his stuff. And then you have to worry about, parent-teacher conference and the teachers calling you and it's like, it's stressful. And honestly, even half-day pre-K, it was stressful for me. I was like, this is hard. This is frustrating to have to deal with all that. And so for us, I just find that it's really easy because, we have a curriculum that we pick, and I love the one that we have for this year. So we have our curriculum, and we just simply lay out what we do every single day. And we're like, okay, we're going to knock it out. You get used to it, and it only takes us about an hour a day on average. And we do the 4-day instead of the 5-day. So 4 days a week, 1 hour a day. That's it. That's all it's taking for us. And so ultimately, I honestly feel like it's easier because if you think about picking your child up from school, waking up at the butt crack of dawn, trying to rush everybody to bed early in the evening, like all these things, like I said, picking up your child, dropping them off, even if they ride the bus, if they're young, you've got to wait out there for the bus, all these things. So for us, it is a lifesaver, I'm not gonna lie. So anyways, enough about the homeschool. That's just my take on that. So my point is, what I wrote down in my notes here is break the rules. Don't be afraid to break the rules. And by the rules, I mean rat race, matrix. Don't be afraid to, if you feel like homeschooling is right for you and your family, just do it. Just because you're a single parent doesn't mean you can't do that. If you feel like you don't want to work a 9-to-5 job, you just want to do your own thing, if you feel like you can make that work, absolutely do it. That is what I do. I do all kinds of different things. I'm a licensed massage therapist, reflexologist. I practice many different modalities with my work, but I have been 100% self-employed for the past, how many years? 6 years? Yeah. And even before that, I had a business partner, so I was still making my own schedule, doing my own thing. So really, since 2014, and yeah, early 2014, and it is now 2022. So, all of this time, I have been just doing my own thing, and it is, oh my gosh, there's its own stress that comes with it, don't get me wrong, but I have noticed, there's no way I could have parented my oldest son had I not been my own boss. There is just absolutely no way. I know that for a fact. Because of the lack of support that I had early on. And I know I keep saying that, but I'm just pointing it out because I know there are other people in that situation, and I feel like my experience can help these people. So if you are struggling, I am talking to you. If you are having a hard time, I am talking to you. And I really do hope that these tips can help you. Some of it is self-explanatory, obviously. But breaking the rules can mean a lot of different things as well. So all these topics can mean so many different things because everybody is living a completely different lifestyle. So for example, breaking the rules might mean going to bed later. That's a huge thing for me. I go to bed considerably later than most people do. I also wake up considerably later than most people do. Now the schedule tends to fluctuate because it depends on what I have going on, because sometimes I do need to get up early for a dental appointment, for a doctor's appointment, for me or the kids, or for whatever we have going on. And that works good for me because most of the time I can just do my own thing and we're just on our own schedule. I do recommend sticking to a schedule even if you are self-employed, even if you homeschool, because schedule is important. We as human beings, we do thrive on a somewhat of a schedule, especially kids. So keeping in a routine and just doing the best you can with that. But overall, guys, just doing the best that you can is really, really the key here. Really all there is to it, ultimately. So, again, I think my most important advice would be don't compare. And secondly, I would say, don't be afraid to break the rules of society. Just don't be afraid, because it will save you in the long run. It will make your life so much easier, trust me. And even if you're not putting your kids to bed super early, that is okay, because I know people tend to rush their kids off to bed at the earliest hour that they possibly can. So my 3-year-old, I will tell you, he has a bit of sleeping issues. He does not sleep nearly as long as most kids his age at night. So what I do is I intentionally put him to bed a little bit later. He actually goes to bed after my older son does. Like my 7-year-old goes to sleep a little bit before my 3-year-old. And weird as that may seem, that's just my situation. I know that my 3-year-old isn't going to sleep very long. And so therefore what I do is I put him to bed a little bit later, and that's okay. And you don't have to give yourself a time. I feel like a lot of times that's where people tend to fail and create a lot of stress and anxiety around certain times. Because if you say, okay, my child's gonna go to bed at 8 o'clock on the dot every single night, no matter what, or 5 days a week, whatever, it's gonna be hard for you to stick to that. I think most people can vouch for that. And it doesn't really matter what time it is necessarily. If you are extremely specific, that's going to get stressful. So just try to have grace with yourself, and know that if you get your kid to bed late one night, or even if it's happening fairly frequently, if it's happening to you, just give yourself grace. If you feel like you need to take a break, if you feel like you need to sleep in for a few days, just have grace with yourself. Whatever your situation is, have grace with yourself. So that's really about all I'm going to say in this video, because I'm already almost 32 minutes in. I didn't intend to do that. I was hoping I wouldn't do that. But anyways, so this is just kind of like my advice to other single parents. And if you are pregnant, if you're expecting a child and you know that you are going to be a single parent, or you're thinking that you might be, I just recommend preparing to the best of your ability. Obviously, just preparing in terms of making sure you have everything you need, and knowing the resources that you can go to for physical needs and spiritual support, and emotional, mental support as well. So having down all of your resources, writing stuff down, taking screenshots of things you might find online on your phone or whatever, anything that can potentially help you. Also, I know it's easier said than done sometimes, but saving what you can, investing what you can, preparing in any way, shape, and form that you can. So anyways, guys, that is all I have to say for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, watching, listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Love you. Bye.